You don't have to carry this alone. I'm here.
When she said these 4 words, he stopped walking toward the edge. What happened next will change the way you speak to everyone you love. Watch until the end, because the last line might be exactly what you needed to hear today. Save this for someone who has gone quietly lately. They may need it more than you know. But before we continue, let us know where you are watching from so we can send you a heart.
She did not call the police. She did not scream. She did not freeze. She simply walked up to a stranger standing on the wrong side of a bridge railing, looked him in the eyes, and said 4 words that nobody had said to him in years. And in that single moment, something inside him shifted. His grip loosened, his shoulders dropped, and he stepped back. What she said was not complicated. It was not rehearsed from a crisis manual or delivered by a trained professional. It was just the kind of sentence that the human heart has always known how to receive, even when the mind has given up. This is the story of what words can do when everything else has already failed, and why the right sentence, spoken at the right moment, can be the difference between a life lost and a life rebuilt.
Marcus was 34 years old when he found himself standing on that bridge on a Tuesday evening in November. He had not planned to be there, at least not consciously. He had just driven, the way people sometimes do when the weight of everything gets too heavy for a living room or a bedroom, or even a car parked in a driveway. He had lost his job 8 months earlier. His marriage had ended 2 months after that. His daughter, who was 7, now lived 4 hours away, and the last time he saw her, she had waved goodbye from a backseat window without fully understanding why Daddy was not coming too. He had stopped telling people he was struggling because he had grown tired of the look on their faces, that uncomfortable mix of pity and helplessness that made him feel like a burden before he even finished a sentence. So he stopped talking, and silence, when it goes on long enough, starts to sound like a verdict.
The woman who approached him that evening was named Diane. She was 51, a retired schoolteacher who walked that bridge every evening as part of a route she had kept since her husband passed away 3 years earlier. She had learned to notice things during those walks, the way grief teaches you to pay attention to the quiet details of the world around you. She noticed the car parked at an odd angle. She noticed the way he was standing, not looking out at the water the way people do when they want a view, but looking down, the way people do when they are calculating something. She did not take out her phone. She did not call anyone. She just walked toward him slowly and stood beside him, close enough that he could feel another human presence without feeling cornered.
She said, "I see you." That was it. Not "Are you okay?" which people almost always answer with a lie. Not "Don't do it," which creates panic and resistance. Just 4 words that acknowledged his existence at a moment when everything in his life had been making him feel invisible. He told her later, in an interview that would eventually reach millions of people online, that those words broke something open in him that he had been holding shut for months. He said that he had not realized how desperately he needed someone to simply witness him, not fix him, not judge, not offer solutions, just see him. The tears came before the words did, and Diane stood there beside him in the cold, not moving, not rushing him, just present.
Research into what mental health professionals call psychological first aid consistently shows that the most powerful thing you can do for someone in emotional crisis is not to offer solutions, but to offer presence. Studies from institutions focused on crisis intervention reveal that people in acute distress are not primarily looking for answers, they are looking for connection. The brain, when flooded with cortisol and overwhelmed by pain, does not process logic well, but it registers warmth. It registers eye contact. It registers the sound of a calm voice and the physical closeness of another person who is not afraid of your darkness. Diane had never studied any of this formally, but she had lived enough life to understand it instinctively.
Marcus eventually climbed back over the railing. He sat on a bench nearby while Diane sat beside him, and they talked for almost 2 hours. She did not pretend to have answers. She told him about losing her husband. She told him about the night she had spent sitting on the kitchen floor because the bedroom felt too empty. She matched his pain with honesty instead of advice, and that honesty created a bridge between two people who had been strangers 7 minutes earlier. Therapists call this validation, the act of communicating to someone that their feelings make sense, that they are not broken or dramatic or weak for feeling what they feel. For many people in crisis, validation is the first real relief they have experienced in a long time. It resonates so deeply with people is not that it is rare, it is that it is repeatable. The science behind human connection tells us that moments like the one on that bridge happen more than we realize. In hospital waiting rooms, in grocery store parking lots, in comment sections at 2 in the morning, wherever one person chooses to slow down long enough to truly witness another. A landmark Harvard study that followed people across 80 years found that the single greatest predictor of a long, healthy, and happy life was not wealth or status or even physical health. It was the quality of a person's relationships. Connection is not a luxury. It is a biological need, as essential as food and sleep, and its absence is as dangerous as any physical illness. Marcus went on to seek therapy after that night. He rebuilt contact with his daughter slowly and carefully. He eventually started volunteering with a crisis text line, spending 2 evenings a week typing to strangers in the dark, people who could not bring themselves to speak out loud, but could still manage to type. He says the training taught him the specific language of presence, how to ask questions that open doors instead of closing them, how to sit in silence through a screen and still communicate that you are there. But he also says that no training replaced what Diane gave him instinctively, the simple, irreplaceable act of choosing not to walk past.
The 4 words she said have since been repeated in support groups, in classrooms, in therapy sessions, and in kitchens where one family member finally turns to another and decides to stop pretending everything is fine. I See You has become a kind of quiet movement in online communities focused on mental health, particularly among young people who describe feeling chronically unseen in a world full of noise and performance and curated highlights. The phrase works because it does not demand anything. It does not require the person struggling to perform their pain, or explain it, or justify it. It simply tells them that their presence in this world has been registered by another human being who cared enough to look.
Diane still walks that bridge every evening. She says she thinks about Marcus often, and about all the other people who pass by on bridges and in hallways and in comment sections every day, carrying weights that nobody knows about because nobody asked. She says she is not a hero and does not want to be described as one. She says she was just a woman who had known enough pain to recognize it in someone else, and who made a choice, in a single, unremarkable moment, to say the truest thing she knew. If you are reading this and you are struggling, consider this your moment. You are seen. And if you know someone who is disappearing quietly into their own silence, you already know what to say. 4 words have never been more powerful or more necessary than they are right now. Thanks for staying to the end, and also do well to like and subscribe, and tell us your thought in the comments section, so I can see you again in the next video. Bye for now.